There are many ways to define culture. We will be focusing on culture as a set of values, beliefs, and norms that have been historically transmitted from generation to generation. In this sense, culture is all-pervasive. It orients our perspective by providing a cultural lens, which informs the context of our daily lives. This is what Sherwood describes as a worldview, a model that we learn from a young age and consolidate through experience. Worldviews are a framework that allow us to interpret the world. But the patterns that make up our worldview should not be understood as merely mental or propositional. Culture is embodied through social forms of doing and feeling. So when we refer to drinking culture, we are talking about the customs, beliefs and practices associated with consuming alcohol, our rituals, relationships and restrictions embodied in our behaviour, creating the patterns that create our worldview. A person's experiences and understandings of the world are shaped and affected by society and the cultural norms that are associated within communities. Taya Selassie highlights the factors that shape personal and social identity.
I call these the 3 R's: rituals, relationships, restrictions.
Australian society encompasses microcultures that are commonly associated with alcohol. The majority of Australians, over 80%, drink alcohol and use it for a wide range of reasons in different social and cultural contexts, including sociability, cultural participation, religious observance, or as a result of peer influence. A person can also drink for pleasure or to drown their sorrows. The consumption of alcohol typically occurs in a communal setting and is common at significant life events like graduations, marriages, or birthdays, as well as many national rituals and celebrations such as Australia Day, St. Patrick's Day, Christmas, or Easter. Therefore, drinking culture is typically a social substance with principles of mateship and reciprocity, demonstrated through the acts of pouring, sharing, toasting, and round buying, which serve to strengthen interpersonal bonds. Along with our rituals and relationships, we also have restrictions. Public health data shows that alcohol consumption is a gendered, age, and spatially differentiated activity in Australia. Through the enforcement of traditional beliefs and values, women are limited to creating and stabilising an ideal nuclear family. Pregnancy, mothering, partnering, age, and socialising are significant restraints society places on women, as well as which environments and beverages are acceptable for women. Men, however, are faced with restrictions of the physical kind. The threat of alcohol-related assault is around double the rate that it is in females. And in New South Wales, the rate of hospitalisation from injury due to alcohol-related violence in 15 to 24-year-old males was around 4 times that of females in the same age group. Sherwood also highlights cultural restrictions through the notion of imperialism. Indigenous Australians' cultural identity has been ignored and suppressed through limiting the rights of all Indigenous Australians, hence why it was illegal for Indigenous Australians to drink alcohol before 1964. The introduction of alcohol to non-Indigenous Australians was a result of cultural diffusion, which is the spread of cultural beliefs and social activities from one group to another. This was not a reciprocal relationship. Western culture dominated Indigenous Australians, and alcohol became a tool in that process. Colonisers introduced foreign cultural concepts like money, ownership, tobacco, and alcohol, which were used as weapons against Indigenous people. Indigenous workers were often paid with alcohol, and a popular 19th century spectator sport was watching intoxicated Aboriginal Australians fight each other to the death. Although these horrific cultural practices have faded, the effects of cultural diffusion are still evident in Indigenous communities. Statistically, Aboriginal people are less likely to drink. However, those who do are twice as likely to die from alcohol abuse. Excessive consumption of alcohol has been linked with cultural dispossession and is related to social stress and disruption among dispossessed Indigenous cultures across the world. So whether you drink or not, Australia's drinking culture will affect you. Drinking culture is ingrained and embodied as an entirely Western practice that has become all-pervasive across Australia's cultures, Indigenous and non-Indigenous.